Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you want to catch more fascinating stories like this one, don't forget to follow our channel. Seriously, it helps us a lot if you subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Your support keeps us going and lets us bring you even more amazing videos in the future. The Strangest Secrets of the Ancient Egyptian Sphinx. The Great Sphinx of Egypt is, honestly, one of the most iconic ancient sculptures in the world. But how much do you really know about it? Does anyone truly understand the Sphinx? The hidden secrets behind this monument go way beyond what most people imagine. You might not even realize just how little you know about it. For example, no one has officially proven that there's a hidden door or tunnel underneath it leading to underground chambers.
But that's exactly what I believe. I'm convinced there are tunnels beneath the Sphinx's feet that connect it to the pyramids of Giza. During a French excavation back in 1837, a secret entrance was discovered. And even Colonel Howard Vyse witnessed it. Still, both Vyse and the excavation team were apparently ordered to keep it a secret.
At first, Simpson's theory sounded far-fetched, until 2019, when real hidden tunnels were discovered under the Giza Plateau. If tunnels exist, then they must lead somewhere. The idea of a link between the Sphinx and the pyramids suddenly seems a lot more believable, especially if the hollow spaces inside the Sphinx once had a specific purpose. But one mystery remains. Why were the French archaeologist and Colonel Vyse told to keep the discovery a secret? If it really was something of major historical importance, why the silence? Now here's a less controversial fact about the Sphinx. It was carved from a single block of stone. That sounds pretty unbelievable given its size. But it's true. This massive structure was sculpted from one giant piece of limestone carved gradually by hundreds of craftsmen until it took the shape we know today, 240 feet long and 66 feet tall. But even that's not the full story. Over time, the Sphinx was restored using extra blocks of limestone, which means its original shape might have looked a bit different. Still, even with today's modern tech, building something this big would be a huge challenge. The fact that the ancient Egyptians pulled it off using just basic hand tools is absolutely mind-blowing, and we don't even know who designed or oversaw its construction. Unlike many other major monuments in Egypt, the Sphinx doesn't have any inscriptions telling us who made it. That's why, honestly, some people go as far as saying it must have been built by aliens.
And speaking of controversial theories, here's another. What if the Sphinx wasn't originally meant to represent a pharaoh at all, but the god Anubis, the one with a dog's head? Most archaeologists believe the face was modeled after Pharaoh Khafre, but not everyone agrees. Some have suggested the Sphinx was originally a lion, symbolizing the constellation Leo. But lions didn't really have a special place in ancient Egyptian culture. Dogs, on the other hand, did, especially Anubis. If you look closely at the Sphinx, with its flat back and the position of its legs, doesn't it look more like a dog lying down? Here's another interesting detail. Anubis was considered the guardian of tombs. So if the Giza Plateau really was once a massive cemetery, building a giant statue of Anubis to protect the area would make perfect sense. Could the Sphinx's face have been changed dramatically over time? Definitely possible. As we said earlier, the Sphinx doesn't have any carvings that document its creation, which only adds to the mystery. If we ignore the Anubis theory and go with the mainstream idea that the Sphinx represents Khafre, then it must have been built between 2558 and 2532 BCE. But the truth is, there's no solid proof to back that up. Even today, we still don't know for sure who built the Sphinx, why they built it, or what its original purpose was. That's a pretty big gap in our knowledge about one of the largest statues on Earth.
We don't even know its original name. Strangely enough, it doesn't show up in any Old Kingdom texts that we've found. It was first referred to as Hor-Emaket during the New Kingdom, but many believe that wasn't its real name either. The word Sphinx only came into use about 2,000 years ago. What really happened to the Sphinx? The mystery gets deeper. For years the Great Sphinx has baffled historians. There are no official records of when it was built or even what it was originally called. That in itself is strange. It makes you wonder, did such records once exist and later get destroyed? And if so, why? Here's another mystery that most people don't notice.
So what actually happened to the Sphinx's nose? The most popular theory is that Napoleon's army blew it off with a cannon during a battle near Giza in 1798, when France invaded Egypt. That version even made it into some history books.
But here's the thing, there's no solid evidence to back it up. No eyewitnesses, no documents, and the timeline just doesn't add up. In fact, all signs point somewhere else. According to Arab historian al-Makrizi, the Sphinx's nose was already gone by the 15th century, or even earlier. He claimed that a Sufi fanatic named Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar was the one who destroyed it. But again, there's no hard proof for that either.
Then comes the most controversial theory, that European visitors deliberately removed the nose to hide the fact that it had clear African features. If true, that would support the idea that the ancient Egyptians were black Africans, something that would rewrite a huge part of history. Another theory says the nose might have been lost due to natural erosion from water, which leads us to an even bigger question.
Geological evidence of water erosion on the Sphinx has been growing, and honestly, it's pretty significant. If those weathering marks really are from rainfall, then the Sphinx could be way older than we think. Geologist Robert Schouk argues that those erosion patterns would have taken thousands of years to form, requiring heavy and consistent rain, something Egypt hasn't seen in over 7,000 years. Based on his research, the Sphinx could be 12,000 years old. If that's true, it would completely flip our understanding of Egyptian history.
To be fair, many scholars completely reject Schouk's ideas and consider him a fringe researcher. Still, the undeniable signs of water erosion are a problem that mainstream archaeology hasn't fully explained. Here's something else that's often overlooked. In the 18th century, the Sphinx was completely buried under sand. That alone makes the Napoleon cannon story highly unlikely. His soldiers wouldn't have even seen the nose. In fact, until 1798, only the very top of the Sphinx's head was visible above the sand. That's when shifting dunes started to uncover it. French engineer Émile Barrès didn't begin full excavation until the 1920s, and it took him 10 years to dig the entire statue out. The modern world didn't get a full look at the Sphinx until 1936. Before that, several explorers tried and failed to uncover it. Italian explorer Giovanni Caviglia and French archaeologist Auguste Mariette both gave up because of the massive scale of the task. Let's be real, the Sphinx didn't get buried that deep just by accident. Thinking that the sand just happened to swallow it would be like expecting the pyramids to disappear under dunes one day. It's pretty obvious that someone deliberately buried it. We just don't know who or why. A piece of the broken beard is currently sitting in the British Museum, alongside a long list of Egyptian artifacts that probably shouldn't be there in the first place. According to the official story, the beard was found in pieces between the Sphinx's paws in the 19th century. But here's the issue. As we already said, the paws were still buried until the 1930s. So that version doesn't make sense either, unless maybe Caviglia managed to dig that far before abandoning the project. It's both fascinating and frustrating that the modern history of the Sphinx is almost as full of holes as its ancient past. Today, Egypt is trying to get the beard back and possibly reattach it to the Sphinx's chin, but the biggest unanswered question of all, and then there's the beard. Yes, the Sphinx probably had a beard at one point. That's not a theory, it's a fact. We still don't know how old the Sphinx really is. Most experts guess it was built for Pharaoh Khafra around 2600 BC, but it could actually be way older, even ancient when Khafra was born. The water erosion alone raises serious doubts. If the Sphinx is more than 9,000 years old, then we may have to accept that it wasn't built by the ancient Egyptians as we picture them today. It might have been the work of an earlier, advanced civilization that came long before them and laid the foundation for Egypt's later greatness. Now, this doesn't mean aliens were involved. Sorry, conspiracy fans. But it does raise the question, who was here before the Egyptians? And what was the true purpose of the Sphinx? We've all seen pictures of this incredible monument, but how many of us have ever stopped to ask, why is it even here? A statue this massive should have been the start of a new tradition. So why didn't any of Khafra's successors build another like it? Maybe it was originally a giant statue of Anubis, and only later recarved into its current form. If that's true, it would explain the lack of inscriptions and the missing historical records. Was it a tribute to a powerful pharaoh, a spiritual guardian, a symbol of an ancient era we no longer understand? The truth is, no one really knows. Finally, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the Sphinx, please consider following our channel and checking out future videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.